Hey guys, welcome back to the Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is Pro Revenge Story. This story takes place around 2015. I was working for a major internet service provider at the time. Our call center had recruited the best technical support specialists from various IT companies across the country to support our new fiber optic broadband service. 1 Gbps connections, revolutionary back then. The center was staffed with some of the most skilled support engineers in the industry. I've rarely met people with such technical expertise. After my first year there, 4 of us were selected to handle escalated complaints directed to the CEO. Let's call him Mr. Vance. While most were from entitled customers demanding special treatment, occasionally we'd get complaints from high-profile clients that required delicate handling. Our team worked exceptionally well together, each bringing different skills to the table. We developed a great relationship with Mr. Vance's executive assistant at headquarters, building solid reputations by solving complex technical issues. Remember, this was before you could easily Google solutions. You had to actually know your stuff. The workplace culture was fantastic, with virtually no employee turnover. Then came the new director, who I'll call Davidson. He transferred from our company's basic customer service division and was completely technology illiterate. "I need you to convert all these Excel spreadsheets to Word documents," he once told me during a meeting. "Why would we do that? The data analysis features in Excel are essential for our reporting," I replied. "Directors don't use Excel, only Word. Just do what I tell you," he snapped. In the short time since his arrival, Davidson had managed to alienate our best staff members. He tried implementing strict scripts and time limits on our calls, completely misunderstanding the nature of our work. We were handling complex technical issues, rebuilding system files, modifying registries, even walking customers through complete Windows 10 reinstalls. "You have 15 minutes per call, no exceptions," he'd bark during team meetings. "That's impossible for the type of troubleshooting we do," our team lead Quinn would protest. "I don't want excuses, I want results," he'd respond. When word came that Mr. Vance was planning a visit, Davidson strategically scheduled the most outspoken team members off that day. Those who met with Mr. Vance were either Davidson's yes men or people too afraid to speak up. The breaking point came when Davidson demanded we create a single-page flowchart depicting every possible technical issue and solution we handled. When we explained the impossibility of this task, he exploded. "Listen here," he screamed, his face turning red. "I don't care about your excuses. I'm the director, and you're nothing but replaceable parts in my machine. You're cattle, and I can replace any of you whenever I want. Now get out." I went home furious. My pregnant girlfriend still worked there, and I couldn't bear the thought of her dealing with Davidson after I left. On my last day, I called Mr. Vance's assistant. "Why didn't anyone tell me you were leaving?" she asked. "Davidson forbidden it," I explained, detailing everything that had happened. Within an hour, I was on the phone with Mr. Vance himself, describing the toxic environment Davidson had created. I suggested an unannounced visit to get the real story from the staff. The following Tuesday, I received a text from my girlfriend. "OMG, Mr. Vance just showed up unannounced." Davidson was escorted out that same day and never returned. Later, I discovered he struggled to find stable employment afterward, his LinkedIn profile showing frequent job changes and long periods of unemployment. The next one is an entitled people story. I've been blind since birth. Most people in my small town know me, and I've never had issues navigating my daily life with my white cane. I know the routes to all my regular spots by heart. The grocery store, the library, the park where I walk my guide dog Sandy, and the coffee shop where I meet friends every Tuesday. That all changed last summer when our town got a new police officer. I didn't know it at the time, but Officer Karen, as everyone would later call her, had transferred from a big city department and apparently had something to prove in our quiet community. The first time I encountered her was completely random. I was walking down Main Street with Sandy and my white cane, heading to pick up my prescription at the pharmacy. It was a beautiful day, and I was in a good mood until I heard someone shouting, "Sir, stop right there! Drop your weapon!" At first, I didn't even realize they were talking to me. Why would they be? I kept walking, tapping my cane along the sidewalk. "I said stop and drop your weapon!" The voice was closer now, aggressive and demanding. I stopped, confused. "Excuse me? Are you talking to me?" "Drop the stick now! Hands where I can see them." I felt a surge of panic. "Officer, this is my white cane. I'm blind." "I don't care what you call it. It looks like a weapon to me. Drop it now or I'll have to take action." Sandy started getting agitated beside me, sensing my distress. I tried to remain calm. "Officer, please. This is a mobility aid. See the white color and the red stripe at the bottom? This identifies it as a tool for the visually impaired. I need it to navigate. Sir, I'm not going to tell you again. Drop the stick and put your hands up. At this point, I heard murmurs from people gathering around us. Someone said, "That's Jeff. He lives on Maple Street. He's been blind his whole life." Another voice chimed in. "Officer, that's a white cane for blind people. It's not a weapon." "Stay out of this," the officer snapped. "I'm handling a potential threat." I was terrified. I'd never been treated like a criminal before, especially not for simply existing in public with my necessary mobility aid. "I'm going to set my cane against the wall here," I said as calmly as possible. "But please understand, without it, I cannot safely move around." I carefully leaned my cane against the nearest wall, feeling completely vulnerable without it. Sandy pressed closer to me, confused by what was happening. "Now put your hands behind your back," she ordered. "What? Why? I haven't done anything wrong." Resisting an officer's commands and carrying a potential weapon in public, I couldn't believe what was happening. "This is ridiculous. I'm blind, and that's my white cane, not a weapon. It's literally designed to help me navigate. This is discrimination. I don't care what excuse you have. The law applies to everyone equally." I heard someone in the crowd say they were recording this. Thank goodness someone had the presence of mind to document what was happening. The officer approached and roughly grabbed my arm. I felt handcuffs being slapped on my wrists. "Officer, you can't do this," I protested. "What about my guide dog? What about my cane? The dog will go to animal control and the weapon is being confiscated as evidence." Pure panic washed over me. "No, you can't take Sandy. She's my guide dog, and I need my cane." Several voices from the crowd started protesting now. "This is outrageous. He's blind. That's his service animal." I heard someone approach. "Officer, I'm Martha Johnson. I run the bookstore right here. I've known Jeff for years. He's blind, and that's his white cane and guide dog. This is completely inappropriate." "Ma'am, step back or you'll be arrested for interfering with police business." I was led to what I assumed was a police car, completely disoriented without my cane, and terrified about what was happening to Sandy. As they put me in the back seat, I heard Martha say she was calling the police chief directly. At the station, I was processed like a common criminal. They took my belongings, fingerprinted me, and put me in a holding cell. I was completely helpless without my cane in an unfamiliar environment. I kept asking about Sandy and my cane, but got no clear answers. After what felt like hours, I heard a commotion and then a familiar voice. "Jeff? It's Chief Roberts. I'm so sorry about this. We're releasing you immediately and all charges are being dropped." The relief I felt was overwhelming. "What about Sandy? And my cane?" "Your dog is fine. Martha took her to her shop, and we have your cane here." As the cell door opened, I felt someone guide me out. The chief personally apologized and explained that Officer Daniels was new and had misinterpreted the situation. Misinterpreted? She confiscated my white cane, claiming it was a weapon, and separated me from my guide dog. That's not a misinterpretation. That's discrimination and a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The chief sighed. "You're right. This shouldn't have happened. We'll make this right." When I got outside, Martha was waiting with Sandy, who practically knocked me over with excitement when she realized I was okay. Having my guide dog back and my cane in hand, I felt whole again. But I wasn't going to let this go. The next day, I contacted a disability rights attorney who was furious when she heard my story. We filed a formal complaint against Officer Daniels in the Department for violations of the ADA, discrimination, false arrest, and emotional distress. The investigation that followed revealed that Officer Daniels had a history of overzealous policing and had been transferred from her previous department after similar incidents. She had zero training on interacting with disabled individuals. The department tried to settle quietly, but I refused. This wasn't about money. It was about ensuring this never happened to anyone else. I insisted on a public apology, mandatory training for all officers on disability awareness, and disciplinary action against Officer Daniels. 3 weeks later, the police department issued a public statement apologizing for the incident and announcing new training protocols. They also stated that Officer Daniels had been terminated for her actions in violation of department policies. The most surprising part came later. At a town council meeting where they were discussing the new police training program, Officer Daniels showed up and demanded to speak. She claimed she was the victim of a political witch hunt and that she was just doing her job by neutralizing potential threats. She insisted that special treatment for certain groups undermined effective policing. The room fell silent before the mayor spoke up. What you're describing as special treatment is actually just basic human rights and dignity. Your inability to recognize that is precisely why you're no longer employed by our police department. The entire room erupted in applause. The aftermath of this incident led to positive changes in our community. The police department now has regular training on interacting with disabled individuals. They even invited me to speak at one of their sessions about my experience and how officers can better serve visually impaired community members. One unexpected outcome was the formation of a community advisory board that includes representatives from various disability groups to provide input on local policies. I'm now a member of that board, working to make our town more accessible for everyone. As for Officer Daniels, I heard she tried to sue for wrongful termination, but the case was quickly dismissed. Last I heard, she was working security at a mall in another county. My white cane has always been my tool for independence, but now it represents something more. A reminder that standing up for your rights can create meaningful change that benefits everyone. I still walk the same routes through town, but now when I tap my cane along Main Street, it carries the weight of victory and the promise of a more understanding community. And Sandy? She got extra treats for weeks after the incident. Some trauma is best healed with bacon. The next one is a malicious compliance story. This happened about a week and a half ago. I was taking a walk in a small park that has a wooded area in and a few walking trails. I decided I wanted to take the shortest path as it was getting late. About halfway through the path, I saw a skunk in the middle of the path, and I am sure based on the title, most people already know where this is going. I turned around and decided it was not worth it to proceed further, and approximately halfway was enough. I exited the path the same way I entered, and as I was entering, I saw an old teacher of mine from high school. Let's call her Miss Samantha, not her real name. Miss Samantha was a teacher that went out of her way to nitpick everything I did in her class in high school. Note it has been almost 12 years since I last saw her and 13 since I was in her class. Anyway, with the backstory aside, I went up to greet her and said, "Hello, Miss Samantha, have you been—" "Hi, I'm trying to take my daily walk down shortest path. Don't bother me." "I wouldn't—" "You said hello. This conversation is over until I get back from my walk, or you can walk with me and we can catch up. I just want to warn—" "This conversation is over for now. Wait until I finish my walk and we can catch up. Understand, Jumping Crow Joker 24? At this point, I think for a moment, I am not the type of person who would normally just let someone walk into a potential skunking, but she was just rude to me twice and did nitpick everything I did in high school, so I chose to say nothing and just took a seat at the bench nearby. "See, was that so hard? We don't need to be a know-it-all. That was your issue back as a student." And Miss Samantha went down that path. As she did, I whipped out my phone and tested my parents that I'd be heading back to my childhood home a bit late. We'll help them with the dog later, but eat dinner without me. I'll be here for a bit longer. One thing to take into account is that the entrance and exit for the shortest path, we have exit parallel to each other. The entrance is on one side of the bench I sat at, and the other side was the exit. In this case, entrance behind, exit in front, so family can wait on the bench and see their relatives exit. Normally, I knew I'd see her on the way out if she'd complete the whole route, but in this case, I had a feeling I'd smell her coming out first, knowing her attitude. Sadly, my instincts were spot on. As I am on my phone playing a few games, I heard Miss Samantha's voice vaguely in the background, and my thought at the time was, "Oh no, she ran into the skunk, here we go." And I do not joke that just as I finished my thought, I heard the sound of a woman yell. Maybe a scream, I couldn't really make that out 100%, but the wind was blowing my way, so I was downwind of the path, the skunk and her, so it wasn't long before I could smell what happened. Miss Samantha did eventually come out from the path's exit, and the smell she was emitting was awful. It reminded me a bit of raw horseradish getting peeled, as it was really eye-watering. "Ugh!" She moaned. "I tried to warn you about that skunk." "I figured it out when I got sprayed. You knew I'd react like that, didn't you?" I shrugged. "I wagered a guess, yeah. By the way, mind taking a few steps downwind, so it is easier to talk?" After that, she gave me her phone number and asked me to contact her when I planned to come back. She hoped it wouldn't be when she was still reeking in skunk odor. As I said at the beginning of this tale, it has been a week and a half. She still has some lingering skunk smell. I found out that up until that moment she was doing okay as well, but she also told me she got sprayed twice when I asked her why she did not turn back. After being sprayed the first time, she told me if she already got sprayed and was going to smell like skunk anyway, she wanted to complete her walk. A fun little anecdote is that after everything she admitted, she was being petty, and when I told her I still wanted to study the foreign language she taught and took some classes in college, she told me that if I ever wanted to practice to let her know, and she'll do it without the pettiness this time. To be honest, I think the skunking humbled her quite a bit, and hopefully she won't be forced to deal with residual linger odor much longer. But anyway, thanks for reading. The next one is an entitled people story. Just to be clear, this happened a long time ago, and I'm currently NC with my sister. And for more reasons as to why, read my other posts about her. When my sister and I played games as children, she always seemed to win. Usually it was because she was older and smarter. But I found out that at times, if she thought she could get away with it, she'd outright cheat when she didn't really need to, and then gaslight me into thinking she did no such thing. Here's an example. As kids, we had to find creative ways to amuse ourselves. In the early 90s, we didn't have a lot in the way of fancy electronics, apart from portable radios. I didn't even get a Game Boy till I was 9 years old in 1995. One outdoor game we had was filtering sand in the sand pit through discarded window screen into buckets, and we'd see who could make the smoothest sand. If I even walked away to take a pee or something, my sister would put rocks in my bucket and totally deny it. And then she'd get super mad if I did it back to her, then mocked me for doing it and called me a sore loser. She loved mocking me if I even lost at anything and got upset about it. She'd grin and tell me to quit being a sore loser. Oh, she just loved putting me down. But now I question just how many games we played that she cheated at before I was able to start noticing. I'm high-functioning autistic, so I was mentally delayed as a child and struggled with noticing or understanding things. Even now when I'm pushing 40, I still struggle with it at times. My sister, though, she always liked to be the boss, even with my N64. Prior to the N64 years, she got an original Game Boy for Christmas in 1994, and I cried about it because at the time I was barely aware what a Game Boy was. I was a country kid that was outside most of the day, and we didn't have cable. And I certainly didn't see anyone with a Game Boy at school, so I rarely saw anything about video games or consoles. To be fair, I did get what I asked for that Christmas. I wasn't ungrateful. But my sister rubbed that Game Boy in my face as much as possible over the next year. Then the following Christmas, I got a Game Boy Pocket. And my sister claimed for years I was copying her just because I got gifted a Game Boy too. She kept calling her original Game Boy better, and still tried to rub it in my face while giving me side glares. But I no longer cared, so one day she just walked into my room while I was playing Donkey Kong Land 3 on my Game Boy, yanked it out of my hands, and just started playing it. She gave me an evil grin and said, "Hey, this Game Boy is better." She refused to give it back, and I had to yank the game out of it before I was able to get the Game Boy back. She nearly beat me up and then stomped out. Fast forward to the N64 years, and my sister almost always forced me to be a team with her on Mario Kart, and would gaslight me into thinking she would always be better at the game. She took advantage of me being autistic a lot back then. Basically, she just wanted me to follow along as her helper so she could win. I always had to be team her, and she was never team me, and she always picked Yoshi and refused to let anyone else use him. If I even somehow managed to grab Yoshi first, she'd flip out or shut down till I gave him up. But she could almost never beat me on Rainbow Road, and gradually I stopped being a team with her, and started kicking her butt at the game. Around that time, she lost interest in playing Mario Kart with me, and moved on to another game. When I got the N64, she claimed my spare controller as her own. It was the colorless, transparent one. If I even tried to use it, she'd make me wish I hadn't. I became adverse to even touching it. I still have that controller and I still don't like picking it up. It's kind of the same with Yoshi. I'm adverse to playing as him just because of her. There's a game called Milo's Astro Lanes for the N64. It's basically bowling in a space retro future, and both my sister and I got pretty good at that game, and we both strive to bowl a perfect 300-point game first. One day I was about to be the first one to get a perfect 300 score, and my sister sabotaged me at the absolute last second and played it off as a joke. For those who don't know, the game Milo's Astro Lanes has power-ups for the bowling balls, but you can also use those power-ups to make traps to sabotage other players, or characters played by the computer during their turns. And there's really nothing that can be done about it. The trap my sister used on me was a bomb, and it was right before I hit the pins. I lost my mind over what she did, and she didn't think it was a big deal at all. Our mother had to force her to apologize for it, and she played the victim while apologizing. She later gave me the middle finger while our mother wasn't looking. She treated me like crap all the time, and was somehow upset by getting in trouble for it. She's even worse now if you can believe it, and she's currently 41 years old. Moving on to early adulthood. Due to difficulty I had finding a job in the 2000s, I had to really pinch pennies to save for anything. I rocked an N64 as my main game console from 1999 to 2005. Even now, I'm still an N64 fan. I know it was far from the best system, but I thoroughly enjoyed gaming on it, and I'm a fan of the game Aiden Chronicles. In 2005, I'd scaped together enough cash to finally buy myself a GameCube, and some stuff to go with it. When I told my sister I was getting a GameCube, she flipped out on me for not getting an Xbox, and then sat me down to try and give me a lecture on how I should take her advice. I didn't, and bought the GameCube, and I was perfectly happy with it. Then my sister got a GameCube too, imagine that. At some point over the next year, my older stepbrother decided he wanted to move back to Utah, and he gave me his old N64 and all the games he had with it. As soon as my sister found out I had the spare N64, she outright told me I should give it to her. Back then, she didn't even like to ask. She'd just say, "You should." That pissed me off so much, and then called me greedy for not handing it over. Her boyfriend at the time, and later husband, then ex-husband, is a cool guy, and he wanted to play Armorines with me because he used to play that game with his brother. Armorines is kinds like Halo meets Starship Troopers, but more primitive. Still a fun game. I still remember the master cheat code. It's Golden Pie. And when you put it in, the game says you've achieved Pi Nirvana. My sister, though, was peeved that I had two N64s and didn't give her one when she told me I should give her one, and told me she couldn't believe I was being so greedy. But I didn't fall for her manipulation, even though she had a GameCube and OG Xbox. Not like she'd loan me one of those systems. I ended up being dumb enough to loan her my NES, though, and her cats destroyed it by peeing and pooping on it. Total loss. She didn't even give me a good apology about it. Thankfully, there's good and free emulators these days. I'm not sure she ever even played that NES. I know she liked Super Mario 3, but I don't remember ever seeing her playing it while she had my NES. I think my sister just wanted it because I had it, and refused to give her the spare N64. Rip my NES. I ended up just selling all the games I had because I didn't have the console anymore. No more Dragon Warrior. Just so I don't end this so depressingly, here's a funny little thing that happened some years ago. When my sister and her ex-husband were splitting up for good, I mentioned the NES game Astyanax to him. He gave me a look, went over to his old Jeep he was about to clean out and sell, and then pulled out an Astyanax NES cartridge. He said he found it somewhere at random and didn't know what to do with it and gave it to me. I still have it. Astyanax is kind of like an isekai anime video game. A very early one. Good graphics for its time. The next one is an entitled people story. I never imagined I'd be posting here. I'm a long-time lurker on this sub and rarely meet such entitled individuals. This happened around a week ago to my housemate, a lovely girl, and I witnessed everything. I'm going to refer to my nice housemate as Ada, 21F, and the perpetrator housemate as Bizarro, 20F. Bizarro is our newest housemate, only here for 2 months so far. We all had been nice and welcoming to her, but clearly that made her think we're some dickhead doormats who won't stand up to her BS. This time, she needed a phone charger, so she knocked on Ada's door and asked if she could borrow hers. Ada was heading out, so she gave Bizarro her charger and said she can have it for the duration of her absence. Ada returned like 4 hours later. I had opened the toilet door about to come out when I saw Ada knocking on Bizarro's door and asking nicely if she could have her charger back. I didn't want to miss this, so I was standing in the doorway at an angle that Bizarro wouldn't see me, but I'd see Ada speaking to her. Bizarro opened her door, looked Ada square in her face, and dropped a resounding no. I've had issues with this Bizarro before. I have so many stories about her shenanigans, but I was truly shocked at this, like the audacity. What the duck, Ada said, "It's my charger. You've had it for all that time I was gone. I need it now. My phone's dead." Bizarro refused again, saying she wasn't given enough time and still needed it, going as far as to blaming the charger, saying it's not my fault that it's so slow. At this point, Ada is as mad as she is confused and said she wants her charger back right this second. I swear I hear another 3 no's from the bizarre housemate before I fully emerge from the bathroom door and walk towards Ada. As soon as Bizarro heard footsteps, she slammed her door shut and screamed, "I'm getting the charger, okay." She opened her door once again, basically threw the charger at Ada and slammed the door shut again. Me and Ada exchanged the most baffled, bewildered looks. Flabbers were completely gastered. Bizarro didn't know I heard everything, so she felt comfortable later on to try twist the whole narrative and directly labeled Ada as a mean girl and herself as a victim to me. The weirdo ambushed me in the kitchen that night to get me on her side. I off-see was having none of it, but that's another story and I don't want to make this any longer than it is. She's unfortunately still here, obviously, so the drama is far from over. A truly bizarre, entitled individual with the worst case of victim mentality I've ever seen. At least we now know to never help her out with anything again. Anyway, thank you for watching.